Welcome to another edition of Tail of the Tape, where Jake Mintz and I compare two baseball teams that are closely linked. Our first edition covered the Mets and the Yankees, but they're not even in the same league, and it's not even relevant until maybe the World Series. But this week, we're going to talk about two teams that are very, very closely linked, not just to the standings, but in the division. Jake Mintz, we're going to talk about the Cardinals and the Brewers.
These two teams are very weird. They are very different. They are very weirdly constructed, and they will be very relevant to one another as the season moves towards October. Let's go position by position, starting with catcher.
Yeah, so Yadier Molina is currently injured. Yadier Molina has been the Cardinals catcher forever. And the thing is that the obvious cut instinct is, of course, I'm not going to bet against Yadi, right? But Omar Narvaez and Victor Caratini have been one of the more productive offensive catcher tandems in baseball. Are we taking that over the veteran leadership of Yadier Molina, even if he's been horrific offensively?
What is the line from The Dark Knight? You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Yadier Molina is not at villainy yet, but he is hitting so poorly in his final season as a big leaguer that it's getting pretty dire. Obviously, he does bring defensive leadership. That's a no-brainer, but I just don't think it makes up for the ineptitude with the bat. So I'm going to go with the Narvaez-Caratini combo over future Hall of Famer Yadier Molina.
That's fair, although I know that is already going to drive a lot of Cardinals fans away from this video. But stick around. We'll make it up to you, we promise. Let's move on to first base. Paul Goldschmidt against Rowdy Tellez. Now, let's give Rowdy some credit. Rowdy has been arguably the most consistent hitter on the Brewers this year. He has been fantastic. We love Rowdy. We interviewed him in the minors. He's one of our favorite people in Major League Baseball. He's been a good hitter. Unfortunately, Paul Goldschmidt is arguably been the best hitter in the National League this year, and this one isn't particularly close.
The 5 o'clock shadow, America's first baseman. He's the front runner for the NL MVP. This one's not even a question. Let's move on to second base.
Second base. This one's interesting. We've got a former Cardinal in Kolten Wong, who's also been dealing with some injuries, but he's been having a solid season when he has been on the field. And then a newcomer, a rookie.
One second. Why don't we just ask Kolten Wong this question?
Why don't we? I don't know. Because Kolten Wong. Why would we ask Kolten Wong this question? We're the experts.
But I'm saying Brewers Cardinals. Like, who has a better feel for these than Kolten Wong?
That's true, but I don't think he has a great feel for Nolan Gorman, who I don't know how much time they would have spent together. But Nolan Gorman, the hot rookie on the block, he has some of the best raw power in the big leagues. Still kind of figuring out how to play second base, but he hasn't looked horrible there. This one's pretty close. I love Gorman. Wong is certainly the safer pick, obviously the better defense. I don't know. This one is honestly close to a toss-up. What do you think?
Right now, on June, whatever the heck it is, give me Kolten Wong. In September, give me Nolan Gorman, because he is going to figure out how to play second base, and the ceiling with the bat is elite. He's not going to be as good at Wong defensively, but he'll make up for it with the stick. So let's call this a toss-up for now.
Let's move to third base. This one's also pretty easy. Obviously, on the other side of the diamond, it's good to have Goldie, but my goodness, Nolan Arenado. Any concerns about him, his offense not translating away from Coors, you can get rid of those. He's still one of the best hitters, still one of the best defenders. And then Jace Peterson has kind of just been holding it down for Milwaukee. So credit to him for being competent over there. But come on, this is easy.
I recently asked Trey Mancini of the Orioles the best teammate he's ever had, and he said Jace Peterson. So maybe Nolan Arenado. Like, I know he's hitting really well, but don't you want to be a good dude?
But is he the best teammate that Trey Mancini's ever had? No, he's not. So in your face, Nolan Arenado. Just kidding. We're still obviously picking you. All right, this next one is also really interesting. Shortstop Tommy Edman, who's currently leading the big leagues in Baseball Reference WAR, top 10 Fangraphs WAR. That's because his defense, since he's moved over to shortstop, has been so good, and he's been an above-average hitter. But Willy Adames, we love Willie. Obviously had the huge second half last year after coming over from the trade. This is pretty close. Who do you lean with here?
In an ideal world, which is not the world we live in, I would put Edman at short and DH Willy Adames. Okay. But within the constraints that we have irrationally given ourselves, I think I have to pick Edman because the defense is so good and because he's a different type of hitter, right, than a lot of the other guys we're talking about. more contact oriented, lets his wheels work. Adames is a stud and, love watching him play. But again, like Edmonds leading the league in Baseball Reference WAR for a reason. It's not just an equation.
I agree. And I think, the peak version of Adames that we saw last year is the ceiling is still probably higher, but he's hitting 210 this year. He's still showing some power. And I think we just have to go with Edmund, who's been so valuable overall. But that's close. We love Willie. All right, let's move to the outfield, and let's talk about a very strange collection of names that has changed a bit already over the year because of some injuries and because of some roster decisions. So with the Cardinals, we're going to talk about 4 players here. And then again, like we did with the Yankees and Mets, we'll pick the 3 out of this group. All right. So Brendan Donovan, who's another rookie who's been fantastic for the Cardinals. He's now playing in left since Tyler O'Neill got hurt, but we'll count Tyler O'Neill. Harrison Bader, Dylan Carlson, and then Tyler O'Neill, who just hit the injured list. Then for the Brewers, we got Hunter Renfroe, Tyrone Taylor, who just took over for Lorenzo Cain, who just got DFA'd. And then, of course, Christian Yelich, who we are still waiting to rediscover his MVP form. So we're picking 3 outfielders out of this group. Who are we going with? This is really difficult. What do you think?
Can I check out the waiver wire?
Look, these are good players. They did all have significant flaws.
I understand.
Weirdly, yeah, what do you
I understand. It's just that we just did the Yankees and Mets where it was like, Aaron Judge, or you know what I mean? And this is very much not that. Okay, so in center, I think I will take Harrison Bader despite the offensive abysmalness or underwhelmingity. There's a word.
Fine. He's underwhelming is fair, but he's not been bad. He's
fine. But he's a great defensive center fielder. I'll go with him. I think I will take Christian Yelich in right field because in the event that like he wakes up tomorrow and is no longer space jammed, he's a top 10 hitter in baseball. So I think you have to go with Yelich. And then left field, I'm going to go with Brendan Donovan, who's been incredible as a rookie irrationally and looks too much like Harrison Bader with the long blonde hair. It's too confusing. But Brendan Donovan is an example of how you know that the St. Louis Cardinals are back. The second that the Cards have dudes you've never heard of absolutely tearing it up, you know they're going to be a problem in October.
Yeah, I wanted to look. Carlson had such a slow start. He's been a little bit better lately. Hunter Renfroe has also been, with Rowdy, one of the best hitters for the Brewers this season, arguably the best. And he's been playing more right, Yelich more left. I don't know, man. I agree with Bader in center. I think I would go Renfroe in right, and then it's a toss-up between Yelich and Donovan, which think about that sentence. I mean, let alone 3 months ago, but like 3 years ago. But Donovan's been that good, and obviously it seems like second base, they have their guy. So I don't know, man. That's really close. It's really tough to say for the outfield, but I think it's close to a toss-up in terms of overall units. And Tyler O'Neill's just been super disappointing. Huge breakout season last year, injured, striking out way too much. It's just been really bad this year. All right, DH. This one is fun. So Albert Pujols is back in the Cardinals. He's still hitting a shocking amount against right-handed pitching. He's been okay, but Juan Yepez has come up and has gotten some of those DH at-bats. For the Brewers, it's really been Andrew McCutchen, and we love Kutch, but boy, he has not been great. A little bit better lately. This one, I think we got to lean St. Louis, especially now that Yepez is in the mix. Do you disagree?
Albert Pujols is older than the Declaration of Independence. But like freedom, he endures into the current time. It's funny to watch him because he is so old and rickety, but he's still hitting lefties. And like at the end of the day, that plays. And Juan Yepez is just like big boy, big swing, have a great time. And the Brewers are rolling out like
we'll
fifth outfielders as their DH right now. And so I think you have to go with the Cardinals.
But let's get to the bench. I think this one is also probably leans towards St. Louis. Edmundo Sosa, who I think some people thought was a bit of a breakout candidate this year, he has not been good, but he has been in the big leagues. They just called up Lars Nootbaar to kind of fill in a little bit for O'Neill. He's been kind of up and down.
Lars Nootbaar.
That is a real baseball player, and he's now on the Cardinals bench because Tyler O'Neill got hurt. Him, Yepez when he's not starting at DH. Edmundo Sosa, who some people thought was a breakout candidate, he has not been great for the Cardinals. when you compare it to the Brewers bench, it's still pretty good. I mean, Keston Hiura, I will forever believe in Keston Hiura. He's been getting some first base reps, some DH reps. Hasn't been awesome, but he's still hanging around. And then, Mark Mathias, Jonathan Davis just got called up. Not the most inspiring cast of characters, I got to say.
You have left one very important person off this list who I am going to say swings it in the Brewers' favor, and that is 2020 postseason hero Mike Brasso, who has been really good for the Brewers this year in limited time, especially against left-handed pitching. He's got the postseason experience, Jordan. So I'm going to go with the Brewers bench because of Mike Brasso.
Yes, he's on the IL right now, but it's true. He has been solid. So I think that at least makes it closer. And sure, it's one of the coolest home runs we've ever seen. So I won't take that.
Let's just make this a toss-up because it doesn't really matter.
Sure. Let's move to the rotation. Now, this one coming into the season, it was like, well, this isn't even going to be close. Why are we even bothering to even name the names? And we have two very interesting units. Cardinals, led by the eternal Adam Wainwright. Dakota Hudson back from TJ. Miles Michaelis recently had his no-hit bid. And then Jack Flaherty, who just came off the IL. We'll see what we get from him. Steven Matz, the big free agent signing, has not been good, and he's now hurt. And then Andre Palante is now in the rotation after starting the season being very good in the bullpen.
What did I say before? The Cardinals are back when guys you've never heard of are playing like all-stars.
Exactly. On the Brewers side, we've got Corbin Burnes, who has been sensational. We love Corbin Burnes. Eric Lauer throwing much harder. He's been very good. Adrian Hauser still getting those ground balls. Aaron Ashby, he's injured now, but that's a very exciting rookie who gets a lot of strikeouts. And then Brandon Woodruff, who's been hurt, he's on his way back. He hasn't been quite as good this season. And then Freddie Peralta, the other big name from last year, he's going to be out until at least after the All-Star break. So let's move Peralta to the side. Let's move Matz to the side. We don't think they're at. These are two very different staffs. Still got to lean Milwaukee here, right?
Not even a question. It's been very impressive what Michaelis has done, but I think there is a little bit of smoke and mirrors in those numbers. We know that there are no smoke or mirrors in anything Corbin Burnes is doing, considering he won the Cy Young, was this good over a full season last year. Wainwright is a magic man who will never age, but still, his performance in the wildcard game last year was gritty and impressive, but over the course of a season, I would still rather have Brandon Woodruff, right? And then if you're comparing Dakota Hudson as a 3 to like Lauer or Hauser or Peralta when he gets back, or even Aaron Ashby, I'm still going to lean Brewers. So even though I'd rather have like Michaelis than the Brewers' fifth starter, I think that the Brewers' high end is better with Burnes. And I think that the Brewers' depth is ridiculous because what they're going to do in the postseason is, if they're all healthy, bump some of these guys back to the bullpen and make their already dominant bullpen even better. So I think for this one, I think it's a no doubt for the Brewers.
I agree. It's amazing. If you just look at the ERA, it's way closer than you think. But the Cardinals are getting so few strikeouts and are relying on so many balls in play in their defense to keep being amazing, which it is. It's an amazing defense, and that's why they're able to do that. But, man, it is none of their starters, even their relievers, are getting really any strikeouts at all. And at some point, I feel like that's going to catch up with them. So I agree with you. You got to go Milwaukee.
And I think the game on Monday night was a really great example of this. These two teams faced off, and Corbin Burnes went 7 scoreless, and the Brewers won 2-0 on a Tyrone Taylor home run, right? And that's super indicative of how these teams operate. The Brewers' offense kind of stinks, but their pitching is so elite that in any given game, they could just not allow a single run and beat the Cardinals. So that's kind of why I would lead them for the starting rotation. Let's move on to the bullpen, where it is, again, closer than you think. Ryan Helsley, the Cardinals closer, has been probably the single best reliever in all of baseball. Giovanni Gallegos is really solid. Genesis Cabrera has been pretty good. But then the Brewers have the two-headed monster of Josh Hader and Devin Williams with his airbender changeup. Brad Boxberger has been pretty good for them in the bullpen as well. I'm going to lean Brewers here, even though Helsley and Gallegos have been good, because as I mentioned before, when the starters get healthy for Milwaukee, those back-end starters are going to move into the bullpen and give them so much depth coming out of there.
Yeah, I agree. I think X factor for St. Louis is, do we move Jordan Hicks back into the bullpen? He's been also trying to come back from injury. I never really understood why they were trying to start him in the first place. But he's a guy I feel like could be another late inning weapon for them, just like he used to be. But yeah, the emergence of Helsley makes him, on par with Hader. But after that, the depth, like you said, just at the starting, there's just so much more depth and proven track record of developing good relievers with Milwaukee than with St. Louis. So while I don't think it's as much of a weakness for St. Louis as it has been over the last few years, I think you still got to lean Milwaukee here.
Yep. Let's talk about the manager, Oli Marmol, in his first year as the skipper for St. Louis against Craig Counsell, who I think is like one of the longest tenured managers in the National League at this point. Yep. We talk about this often, how for big league managers, there's like 4 good managers, like 2 bad managers, and then the rest of them are just who the heck knows. Counsell is one of the managers where I'm like, he is good at his job. The Brewers have consistently outperformed expectations for long enough with him in charge that I feel like he is a legitimate boost to the team and a vital part of the whole thing. Like, behind Yelich and the pitchers, he's like the most famous Brewer. You know what I mean? Like he operates almost like a college football coach or like a Premier League manager where like it's him, like he's the guy.
In the way that Joe Madden kind of became that for some of those Rays teams, Counsell is now sort of that for Milwaukee. And I agree. I mean, he's not quite as out there personality wise, but I'm with you. I think he's great. And Marmol, we just don't know, right? I mean, it's still too early. I know this is not hating on him, as I think anyone would. Counsell just has such a reputation. So by all accounts, Marmol seems pretty good. Obviously, the Cardinals are right up there battling for first. So he's certainly not doing anything wrong. But we just don't know yet. So I think we got to lean the edge to Counsell there. All right, then last thing, vibe check. This is most important. I think, with the Mets and the Yankees, they've been so much better than everyone else, right? These 2 teams have been in first, and they're way better than the other poopy teams in their division. But who's having more fun? This is a weird comparison here.
Have you ever been to Milwaukee in the summer, Jordan?
I haven't.
I have. I'm going to go with Brewers vibe check. Solely based on that. New City Connect uniforms look pretty swell. I think that the Brewers, the way that they are built offensively, gives them the energy that they're playing with house money. When you're rolling Jace Peterson out to play third base every day and you're still winning more often than not, that gives just this energy of we're untouchable. Like we are winning close baseball games all the time. I don't think the vibes are bad with the Cardinals, but there is always like a larger amount of pressure on the Cardinals, especially because they haven't had the same amount of success as the Brewers in recent years. First year manager in St. Louis, Counsell is going to know what he's doing in Milwaukee when, the going gets tough. And then lastly, like when we started to do this exercise and I looked at all of this on paper, I was like, how are the Cardinals not 10 games ahead, right? And then I kind of thought for a second, it was like, the Brewers have been doing this for the last 4 years where they consistently outperform expectations and they close that gap, whether that's by run prevention or good game planning or good coaching or good managing or player development or the bullpen or whatever it is. The Brewers have consistently outperformed those projections, similar to like the 2012 to 2016 Orioles comes to mind for me, except they're actually good. And so even though we picked the Cardinals for a lot of these, I still think the Brewers are going to win the division. I know you disagree.
Yeah, this is a little behind the curtains here, like us here at Fox, with our colleague Pedro Mora. Big disagreement. I really felt good about St. Louis, and he thought the Brewers would be running away with it. And I know you kind of fall somewhere in between, leaning more towards Milwaukee. And I'm with you. I totally hear you. And the Brewers are tough to like. I should stop being surprised at this point. Almost again like Tampa Bay at this point. It's like, yeah, they're going to be good. they're better than what their roster looks like. But man, St. Louis, with the emergence of Edman, with some of the other pitching that has emerged for them, I think they're going to hang around. I think they can be close. And if Goldschmidt's going to be this good, that is just such an overwhelming offensive presence. So I think St. Louis is going to eke this out. This is going to be a big deal, right? Because the difference between winning the division versus, being one of those wildcard teams is pretty big. And we know that they're going to be beating up on those other 3 teams all summer long. So that's our tale of the tape for the Cardinals and the Brewers. To check out more, make sure you can read more on the Fox Sports app or on foxsports.com. I'm Jordan Schusterman. That's Jake Mintz. More tales of the tape coming soon.
Who knows? Maybe Christian Yelich will wake up.